But anyway, that's all right. Okay, I'm at the American Society on Aging. It's March 31st, 2012. I'm at a poster session with one of my students, Jinyu Liu, and this woman came up to the poster session and we had a conversation. And she's got a very interesting job, so I've asked her to introduce herself and then tell me a little bit about what she's doing.
Great. Hi. Thank you so much. I'm Ann Zabaldo. I'm a member of the board of directors of Atlantic Cohousing here in the Washington, D.C. area. And what we do is we educate and inform the public about co-housing. And so your next question is going to be, well, what is co-housing?
That's right.
I'll tell you, these are small-scale, village-like communities that cluster their housing around a central common area that we call a common house. And what makes co-housing very different, it's just a condo, it's just a co-op, it's just a homeowners association. Financially and legally, it doesn't look any different than any other kind of development. What makes it different is the people who are going to live in it actually co-create the community with the developer and the architect over the lifespan of the development process. So the people who are going to live there custom create their neighborhood. Not just their homes, they're creating a whole neighborhood. So the distinguishing characteristics about co-housing is involvement of the community in the design and development. They have a lot of common property together. They manage the property themselves. We don't really have management companies. And that there's a certain kind of architecture that helps support a sense of community. We also relegate our cars to the exterior of the community, so we don't really build bedrooms for our cars. We don't do that. And we also use some sort of collaborative decision-making process, which is very different from standard condominiums. And I would say a simple way to say it is co-housing communities, the governance of the community is from the bottom up rather than from the top down. So in a sense, you could say everyone is on the board of directors for the condominium or the co-op. It's not just the people who officially are titled to it. Everybody has responsibility for everything. We also do really good work together since we manage the community ourselves. It means that we really get to know our neighbors very well. We work on teams. We have a reason to be together, and that is to run our community. So we run into each other a lot every day. We're working with each other. It's a fabulous way to live. It's the community, it's the neighborhoods we yearn for that we never grew up in. We're yearning for those neighborhoods where people don't lock their doors, they go in, they know each other, they lend their cars, they take care of their kids, their elders are taken care of, and that's exactly what co-housing provides.
So it's not just for older adults, it's for anyone?
No, there are both intergenerational and senior co-housing. Senior co-housing is the fastest growing segment of co-housing right now. It's just recently come into the U.S. Co-housing started in Denmark in the early 70s, I believe. It was brought to the U.S. in 1988, and we're about 136 communities now, built in about 140 in some stage of development all over the U.S. And senior co-housing just is a few years old, and we've got about 4 built now, and probably about 4 or 5 others in the works.
So you actually build these facilities, build these neighborhoods.
Yeah, yes, the neighborhoods are actually built by, you use professionals, but the community actually comes together 2 years prior to moving in, and actually works with each other over the lifespan of this. So you can imagine that when you move into your community, you know everybody. You're already a community long before you ever move in. You're a community. So, here's another just example. I often ask people when I go to do a talk, I'll say, well, how many of your neighbors do you know? Do you know 10 of your neighbors, first and last names? And sometimes people live in great communities and they do know that, but mostly they'll say, well, I know the person on either side of us and the guy across the street. And I go, I have 64 adult neighbors. I know all of my neighbors, first and last name. I know all of the children. I know all of the dogs and most of the cats. And I know everybody. I know when there's a stranger in our community, I know who that is. I know a lot of the extended family. We greet extended family. We meet with extended family. So we know each other really well. And it's a perfect blend, just so people don't get too excited, it's a perfect blend of privacy and community. So So you have all the privacy you want and all the community you want.
When somebody moves out, then does the community, or is the community involved in who moves back in? Like if you sell your unit or sell your
Different
house?
communities do different things. If you're a condominium, it's fee simple ownership. You just sell your unit. But generally, people want the community to do well, and so in our case, in my community at Tacoma Village Cohousing here in Washington D.C., we have a waiting list, and so when we're ready to sell, we just notify somebody wants to sell, they notify the waiting list. In our 12 years of existence, we've only had one transaction in a resale with a real estate agent, and that was because it was a very complex, extremely complex deal that required somebody who had some know-how on how to do that. Otherwise, it just happens in-house. And I would say, in case people are interested, we've had downturn in the market. We've either stayed stable or done better than the market. We've had fewer foreclosures overall, and at a time now the market is coming back where developers are having trouble getting financing for condominiums. Co-housing is getting financing. We're getting money. So it's a good model.
Is there a model that would be open to low-income people?
Actually, there is. First of all, a lot of co-housing communities automatically build in affordable units into their communities. Sometimes they're built. There's an affordable housing developer here in Washington D.C., Don Tucker with Eco Housing Corporation. So 70% of their homes at Tacoma Village were at affordable levels for D.C. Now, affordable for D.C. is out of range for most people. Okay, so you have to take that into context. But they did actually, because he's an affordable housing developer, he knew how to use all the mechanisms open to affordable developers to reduce the cost at Tacoma Village. But there's also some communities team up with Habitat for Humanity to put in low-income housing. Some communities have rentals in their communities. There are actually two affordable co-housing rental models that have been built within the last 5 years. This is a new area for us as well. So there's some affordability built in. Also, there's just affordability built into the fact of there's economies of scale, and then once you live in co-housing, there are things like I rarely ever go to the grocery store. When my neighbors go, they go to the grocery store, they pick up stuff. Or when I'm going someplace, I ask my neighbors. For people, if you're in intergenerational, child care is just right there all the time. You don't have to call somebody to, pay people to take care of your kids. It's just there. Elder care, we have elderly people in our community, and so they have care, people looking in on them. How are you doing today? What's going on? Can we help you with this? I mean, it's neighborhoods the way we would like neighborhoods to be.
Exciting.
It is exciting. Sometimes I call it the old-fashioned neighborhood of the future.
Of the future.
Yeah.
And so you work for this group and you live there.
Well, I am on the board of directors for Mid-Atlantic Cohousing, which is the nonprofit. I live at Tacoma Village Cohousing. I was on the development team for that. I was on the development team for Eastern Village Cohousing, both done by Eco Housing Corporation. And then I formed my own development company, Cohousing Collaborative. So just to be straight about that, I am a developer as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time and for sharing this exciting idea with me.
Very kind of you to interview me. And
Thank you.
Good luck to you on the rest of the conference.
Thanks.
It's nice to meet you. Really nice to meet you. I hope that